I'm Claire. We think we know the people we share our lives with. We memorize the lines on their faces, the rhythm of their breathing at night, the stories they tell about their past. We build a home on the foundation of that knowing. But what happens when you discover that foundation isn't just cracked? It was built over a chasm you never saw. For 22 years, I believe my husband, Robert, was a quiet, decent man. A man of routines. He traveled for work 1 week a month, always to the same city. He was frugal, careful with money. He was a devoted, if somewhat distant, father to our daughter. I thought his reserve was just his nature. His secrets, I assumed, were small, a hidden credit card, maybe a harmless flirtation. I was wrong. His secret wasn't small. It was an entire life. A parallel universe running alongside mine, powered by my trust, funded by our shared resources, and hidden in the plain sight of his predictable absences. And I didn't find out through a private investigator or a misplaced phone. I found out the day that secret life, in the form of a terrified young woman and a little boy with my husband's unmistakable eyes, showed up on my doorstep, not with anger, but with a desperation so profound it shattered my world in an instant. In that moment, I didn't just lose a husband. I lost the entire story of my life. The man I'd slept beside, raised a child with, planned a future with, he was a fiction. And the truth was standing on my welcome mat, hungry and afraid. That evening, when Robert came home expecting his ordinary life, he walked into the wreckage of his own making. And for the first time, he faced a woman who was no longer blind, but saw everything with a terrible, clear-eyed focus. Robert and I met in our late 20s. He was a regional sales manager for an industrial parts company, unflashy, stable. I was a grade school teacher. We bonded over a love of quiet weekends, old movies, and the idea of building something secure. Our courtship was not a wildfire. It was a slow, steady burn. He was kind. He remembered my mother's birthday. He fixed things around my apartment without being asked. He felt safe. We married. We bought a modest 3-bedroom house. We had our daughter, Maya. Life had a rhythm. Robert's job required him to travel to the company's headquarters in a city 3 hours away every third week. He'd leave Monday morning, return Friday night. It was just part of the fabric of our lives. He always called at 7 p.m. sharp. He always brought back the same cinnamon candies from the hotel. His predictability was his hallmark. He managed our finances. "You have enough on your plate with teaching and Maya," he'd say. "Let me handle the boring stuff." I saw the spreadsheets, neat color-coded. Mortgage, retirement, college fund. He was careful. We lived comfortably but not lavishly. I had my own account for household expenses, but the big picture was his domain. I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He was meticulous. He was dependable. His other hallmark was a gentle, perpetual melancholy, a quietness that I mistook for depth. Sometimes he'd get a faraway look. "Just work stress, Claire," he'd say. I'd rub his shoulders, believing I was comforting a man burdened by providing for his family. The clues in retrospect were neon signs. But when you're living inside the story, you don't look for the author's notes. The separate phone for work, that never rang at home. The way he'd suddenly need to run an errand on Sunday evenings before his travel week. The extra $50 here or there from the ATM. He'd explain as client lunches. I built a narrative of a slightly anxious, hard-working man. I had no idea I was writing fan fiction for a stranger. It was a Tuesday. Maya was at college. I was on summer break, painting the guest room. The doorbell rang. I opened it, expecting a delivery person. Instead, I saw a woman in her early 30s, her face pale with exhaustion and fear. She held the hand of a little boy, about 5 years old. He was clutching a ragged stuffed dinosaur. And he was a miniature Robert. The same serious hazel eyes. The same distinctive cowlick. The same way he held his mouth when he was uncertain. My breath left my body. Can I help you? I managed. My voice strange to my own ears. The woman swallowed hard. Are you Claire? Claire Henderson? Yes. My name is Elena. This is Leo. Her voice trembled. I'm so sorry to just show up. I didn't know where else to go. Robert Henderson is he's Leo's father. The words didn't compute. They were nonsense syllables. Robert Henderson. My husband. Father. This child. I must have swayed, because she reached out a hand. I'm so sorry. Please. May we come in? Just for a moment. I can explain. Some deep, autopilot instinct of hospitality, of seeing raw fear in another woman's eyes, overrode the nuclear bomb that had just detonated in my brain. I stepped back. Yes. Kumein. They stepped into my foyer, into the home Robert and I had built. Leo looked around with wide eyes, and in his gaze, I saw a child's curiosity about a place he'd surely heard of but never seen. The reality of it was a physical blow. I led them to the sunroom, the room I was proudest of. We sat. I offered lemonade with a surreal sense of normalcy. Elena's story poured out in a quiet, shame-filled torrent. They'd met 8 years ago. Robert had told her he was divorced, a lonely salesman. He'd wooed her with the same quiet, steady attention he'd used on me. He rented an apartment for them in his travel city. For years, he'd lived his week there with them, and his weeks here with us. He told her his ex-wife, me, was difficult, that he was securing his finances to break free completely. He promised marriage, a real home. Then 6 months ago his company downsized. He lost the job that facilitated the travel. The payments to Elena slowed, then stopped. The excuses began. Last month, their landlord evicted them. They'd been in a motel, then a shelter. Her part-time job wasn't enough. She'd found our address on an old piece of mail in his weekend bag. I didn't come to make trouble, she wept, Leo clinging to her side. I didn't know what else to do. He's not answering his phone. Leo needs a doctor. He has asthma, and the inhaler. I can't afford it. I thought maybe you could make him help. You're his wife. He listens to you. The grotesque irony of that statement. He listens to you, hung in the air. I looked from her desperate face to Leo's, which was a mirror of my own daughter at that age, blended with the man I thought I knew. In that moment, my grief was instantly joined by a white-hot, clarifying fury. Not at her. At him. He hadn't just betrayed me. He had created 2 families and left them both vulnerable. He had let this child suffer. He had let this woman reach a point of such despair that she had to beg from his other victim. Does he know you're here? I asked, my voice eerily calm. She shook her head. No. He'd be so angry. He said you were unstable, that you'd cause a scene. I almost laughed. Unstable. The final layer of the lie. He'd painted me as the villain in both our stories to protect his secret. I looked at Leo, who was now quietly playing with his dinosaur on my rug. In my sunroom. In a house his father helped pay for but had denied him. You will stay right here, I said to Elena, my teacher voice taking over. You and Leo. You are safe. Do not leave. I walked to my bedroom, closed the door, and slid down against it. I didn't cry. I processed. My mind, trained over decades to organize, to plan, to manage crises, lost lunchboxes, playground disputes, clicked into a cold, efficient mode. First, the truth. It was no longer an abstract shock. It had a face. 2 faces. It was in my house. Second, the immediate need. A child needed medical care. A woman needed shelter. Third, the source of the problem. Robert. I called my doctor, a friend of 20 years. Susan, I need a favor. I have a little boy here, a friend of Maya's having an asthma flare. Can I bring him in immediately? A small lie to protect Elena's dignity for now. I drove them to the clinic. I paid for the visit and the new inhaler with my personal card. I bought them groceries. I brought them back home. I made up the guest room. You will stay here tonight, I told Elena. It was not a suggestion. While Leo napped, exhausted from the ordeal, I sat with Elena at the kitchen table. We pieced together the double life, the timelines, the financial sleight of hand, the separate phone numbers, the work stress that was actually the stress of maintaining two households, the frugality in our life that wasn't prudence, it was necessity, to fund his other one. Then I acted. I logged into our shared computer. With the details Elena provided, I found things. The secret email. The records of money transfers to an account I didn't recognize. A lease agreement with Elena's name. The evidence was a damning tapestry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I went to the garage and found two large suitcases. I brought them to our bedroom. I opened Robert's closet. Methodically, calmly, I began to pack every stitch of his clothing. I emptied his dresser. I gathered his toiletries. I packed his prized golf clubs, his favorite books. I was an archaeologist packing up the artifacts of an extinct creature, the creature known as my husband. I placed the suitcases by the front door. Then I waited. Robert's car pulled into the driveway at 6:15 p.m., right on time. He'd texted earlier, long day, looking forward to a quiet dinner. I watched from the living room window as he gathered his briefcase, as he walked the familiar path to the door. He was smiling faintly, thinking of his quiet, oblivious wife and his controlled secret world. He opened the door. "Honey, I'm home." The words died in his throat. His eyes took in the scene. Elena and Leo on the sofa, Leo watching cartoons. Me standing in the archway to the living room, arms crossed. And the two packed suitcases by the door. His face underwent a seismic shift. Confusion, then dawning horror, then pure, unadulterated panic. The color drained from his face, leaving a gray, sickly pallor Claire. What is this?" he stammered, looking from me to Elena, who refused to meet his eyes. "I think you know exactly what this is, Robert," I said, my voice like ice. "Your family is here. Both of themselves." "It's not what you think," he began, the pathetic default of the caught. "Don't," I cut him off. "Don't insult me with another lie. Not now. Not in front of your son." I emphasized the words "your son." Leo looked up at the sound of his father's name, his little face confused. Robert's eyes darted to Leo, then to Elena, then back to me. The architect of two lives saw his structures collapsing into each other. He started to babble. Explanations, excuses, fragments of stories that contradicted each other. "I was going to tell you that it was a mistake. She meant nothing. I was going to leave her." Elena flinked. I saw the fresh hurt on her face. He was trying to throw her overboard to save himself. "Stop," I said louder this time. "You have lied to me for at least 8 years. You have lied to her. You have neglected your child. You have stolen security, trust, and peace from everyone in this room. There are no words left that have any values." He fell to his knees, right there in the foyer. He began to cry real, shuddering sobs. He reached for me. "Claire, please. I love you. This is my home. Maya, think of Maya." That was his final mistake. Using our daughter as a pawa. "Do not speak her name," I hissed, a flash of heat finally breaking through my cold composure. "You forfeited the right to use her as a shield when you created a brother she doesn't know. Your things are packed. Your keys are on the table. You will leave. Nowhere." "Where will I go?" he whined, a broken make. I looked at Elena, then back at him. "That is no longer my concern. You have another family to figure that out with. Or not. But you will not do it in this house. I picked up his suitcases, carried them to the doorstep, and set them down on the porch. I held the door open. The message was final. He looked at Elena, hoping for an ally. She turned her face away, holding Leo close. He had no one. He was a stranger in both his worlds not. He shuffled out, broken. I closed the door. I turned the deadbolt. The sound was the period at the end of a 22-year sentence. The silence in the house was immense. Then Leo started to cry, confused by the tension and his father's abrupt departure. Elena moved to comfort him, but she was shaking too badly. I walked over, knelt in front of Leo. "It's okay to be sad," I said, my teacher voice soft. "This is a very confusing day. But you are safe here." I looked at Elena. "You both are." That night, we didn't talk much. We ate a simple meal. I showed them to the guest room. The normality of the actions was a lifeline in a sea of chaos. In the days that followed, a strange solidarity formed. We were not friends. We were fellow survivors of the same shipwreck. We worked together out of necessity. I connected Elena with a family law attorney I trusted. We subpoenaed Robert's financial records, uncovering the full extent of the diverted funds. We filed for divorce and for child support for Leo on the same day, with coordinated legal strategies. Robert tried to appeal, to manipulate, to play us against each other. But we compared notes. We presented a united front. He couldn't pit his unstable wife against his greedy mistress, because we refused to be cast in those roles. We were Claire and Elena, the women he defrauded. I helped Elena find an apartment and co-signed the lease. I gave her a no-interest loan from what I recovered from the frozen assets, to be repaid slowly. It wasn't charity. It was restitution. For letting. Maya was devastated, of course. Telling her was the second hardest thing I've ever done. She was furious at her father, protective of me, and bewildered by the existence of a half-brother. Therapy helped. Slowly, she has begun to form a cautious, separate relationship with Leo. He is, after all, an innocent child who shares her father's smile. Robert lives in a small apartment now. He pays substantial child support to both households. His reputation is shattered. He is a man defined by his deceit. My life is different. Smaller in some ways, but infinitely more authentic. The house is mine. The finances are transparent. The silence is no longer filled with unasked questions, but with a peace I own completely. Elena has a good job now. Leo is thriving in school. We are not sister wives. We are civil, bound by a painful history and a shared responsibility to a child. We exchange emails about Leo's school events. We are cordial at the rare functions we both attend. It is a practical, respectful detente. Sometimes I look at Leo and see Robert. But now I also see a little boy who is kind, who loves dinosaurs, who was saved because two women chose not to battle each other, but to face the true enemy together. I didn't get revenge. I got justice. I didn't punish the other family. We were all in the same prison. But I finally, forcefully, made Robert feel the weight of the two lives he was too cowardly to live honestly. The consequence was the loss of both. He thought he could manage two worlds. In the end, he lost his place in both. And the women he underestimated built new worlds from the rubble. Worlds with clear sightlines and honest foundations. If you are listening, and something in your spirit hums a warning you can't explain, a discrepancy in a story, a financial opacity, a gut feeling that the person beside you is somehow absent, trust it. Do not dismiss it as paranoia. The truth has a weight, and even when buried, it strains to surface. And if the truth arrives, as it did for me, in the most shocking form imaginable, remember this. Your fury is justified, but directed at the architect of the lie, not the other souls trapped in his blueprint. There is a power in refusing to play the role written for you in someone else's deceitful script. There is a profound strength in looking at another victim and seeing not a rival, but a reflection. My husband hid his first family for years. He built a life on a fault line. And when the quake came, he was the only one buried in the collapse. Elena Leomaya and I? We are above ground. We are breathing the clear air. And we are building anew, on solid ground, with our eyes wide open. A lie that big doesn't just hide a secret. It steals reality from everyone it touches. The greatest act of reclamation is to take reality back. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.